Hi, everyone. Robin Shea here. Welcome to day 5 evening message before the fork, the 28-day experience. I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. I had an especially fantastic Sunday. I had church service earlier today and just a super amazing fellowship time. So anyway, I hope that your Sunday was blessed. And tonight I want to talk about removing the thorns. And this is unscripted, as most of these videos are completely unscripted. I do have my journal pages to kind of help keep me on track, but for the most part, everything is very unscripted. So what I do is I present you the morning message, and then as I move through the day, I look for things to line up for the evening message. So I look for little things as I move through my day that I think may relate to exactly where you are at this point in your transformation process. So tonight's message is called Removing the Thorns. And I'll tell you, one of the things that you're going to be encountering right now, this is day 2 of phase 2, is you're going to have triggers. You're going to move through your day and there's going to be triggers that either trigger you to impulsive action, trigger you to a mood or a predisposition to a certain way of thinking. But as you move through your day, all through your day, every day, your environment will trigger little subconscious reactions to life. And I'll give you an example. This morning, when we're sitting in church, my youngest son stood up and was going to witness. And as he started speaking to the congregation and everyone, hi, Teresa. As Rowdy started to speak to the congregation, he mentioned my name in his, just in his delivery to witnessing to the congregation. And just simply him mentioning my name, knowing that I was on his heart. Of course, as his mama, my tears just started flowing because it was a sweet, sweet trigger. So not all triggers are sweet, but it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about as you move through your day. Just his heart, feeling his heart in that moment triggered me to just outpour love that I had for him, of course, through tears. So you can also move through your day where you take a certain route somewhere and you automatically pull your car into one of the fast food restaurants because you're used to maybe getting an afternoon sundae or a big, large sweet tea to carry home with you, or maybe even one of those 700-800 calorie cappuccinos. So you have little triggers that are set up through your day. So tonight I did want to talk about acknowledging these triggers and redirecting this behavior. This morning we talked about no and softening the no's in your life. And tonight I want you to be aware of daily environmental triggers. And when you come across a situation that triggers you to react a certain way, you're going to have to go into action and start thinking about an alternative to that destructive behavior. So it's going to require, again, it's going to require the prefrontal cortex to be completely and totally engaged. Now, with that being said, I want you to know that if you experience a trigger and you actually give into it, but as you're giving into it, you're going, okay, that's a trigger. That's what she was talking about. There's that trigger, but it's too late. You've already given into it. Don't go into self-loathing. Don't go into being frustrated. Don't go into judgment with yourself. And the reason that we're not going to do that is the second you move into those toxic, judgmental, low vibration emotions, then you start the release of that thought cycle. And that's what we're breaking. We're breaking those toxic thought cycles. So if you come across a trigger in your life, even if you've given into it, say, okay, that's what she's talking about. Okay, I might have screwed up that time, but now I'm aware of it. Jot it down. Give yourself a couple of alternatives. Make sure that you identify the trigger as well as the action. So I interviewed a gentleman a couple years ago when I had my radio program, and he was, I don't remember his name. He was the raw food trucker. Okay, the raw food trucker. This was a gentleman that was incredibly obese for a very, very long period of time. So obese. He was a truck driver, and he had gotten so bad that he was diabetic. He was all kinds of conditions related to diabetes, and just carrying that much of a body mass. I believe he was 400 some odd pounds. And the Holy Spirit moved in him. He got that spiritual science. God said, it's time for you to make a change in your life. And he started juicing, and he started doing the raw foods throughout his travels. And he was able to lose all kinds of weight. I think he was developing a couple of cancers as well. Those reversed. So anyway, he completely cleaned his life up. But one of the things that he shared on the program with me is that there was about a 2-year period of time that he could not walk through a food court. He just couldn't walk through a food court. He would go to the malls in his travels, and he would eat his way through the food court. And then when he got on the other side, or was trying to get on the other side of this weight struggle, he realized that the smells in that food court were a trigger. Now, what happens when you're having a trigger is that your prefrontal cortex shuts down. So your ability for that rational thinking, we've talked before about getting in front of the urges. When your prefrontal cortex shuts down because you have a super, super strong trigger, your hindbrain takes over. It silences all of your rational thinking, and you go into automatic pilot. And he said that environment was too strong of a trigger for him to overcome. So he avoided it for 2 years, and then he started reintroducing himself to situations that he was very, very vulnerable to. But he had enough tools collected and gathered up in his toolbox that he was able to navigate these situations where before he had nothing. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad y'all are here. So that brings me to my second point. And that second point is there may be some situations like social events. When you're in phase 2, it may not be the best time to test your resolve. We'll move into testing your resolve in phase 3 and phase 4. We will move into some more social challenges. But in phase 2, you need to protect your environment. Look for the triggers. You know what they are. Is going out to dinner a trigger? If going out to dinner is a trigger, if going out to lunch or breakfast is a trigger, you need to protect yourself from that, which might mean that at this point of the game, you need to avoid those situations. So you have known triggers, and then you have unknown triggers. And those are the ones that I want you to catch yourself in the middle of and jot down some alternatives to those triggers. Okay, but as we move through, we'll start doing some exposures to more delicate situations that you've had a difficult time managing in the past. So I'll give you a good example of overcoming a social trigger. We went to brunch today after church service. And when we were at brunch, we went to Cracker Barrel. And for those of you that know Cracker Barrel, it's a very indulgent menu. And as we walked in, I already know the menu. I never really ever go into a restaurant that I don't know the menu. I look at it online before I ever even go to the restaurant. So especially when I'm hungry. So if I go into the restaurant, I have no need to read through all of the magnificent descriptions that they have of their wonderful indulgent food, not to mention the pictures and the this and the that. So they handed us the menu. I didn't even need to look at it. I knew exactly what I was ordering. And that just eliminates that level of temptation. Another thing is Mexican restaurants. You can go to a Mexican restaurant and they set X number of baskets of chips and salsa on the table, such a huge saboteur. Because you're just doing the little micro eating. You're only eating one chip at a time, so you lose track of how many, and they've got it filled back up before you ever recognize that it was getting empty. So you don't keep track of what you're doing. So you need to, when you start to go to these environments, position yourself furthest away from the chips. Protect yourself. Build that boundary around yourself. So you'll start canvassing your day for opportunities to protect your environment. And that's exactly what you need to do right now at this stage of the game. Let's see, what else in Mexican restaurants? Because we do a lot of Mexican around here. But once you break those habits of the chips, actually, you can eat at a Mexican restaurant and stay right in line with your 80%. You don't have to move over into the 20% when you're eating Mexican. Sizzled fajitas without the tortillas, and making sure that your condiments or your sides are all the fresh pico de gallo, and eliminating the orange cheese and that kind of thing. You can eat perfectly clean at a Mexican food once you recognize what it is that you can order. So that's the message that I wanted to leave y'all with tonight, is you're going to be having a lot of opportunities to identify areas of weakness. And that's exactly what they are. They're opportunities to strengthen and create tools for yourself. So everyone has different triggers. You might have a trigger of, you smell cookies baking, and before you know it, you are eating ice cream out of the freezer. That smell of the sugar and the flour and the vanilla triggers something in your mind. So you just have to be aware of what those triggers are, how you respond to them. So it's not just the action, it's also the trigger. Once you put those two pieces together, then you'll be able to identify environments. One trigger that I know for ex-smokers and ex-drinkers is when you're outside and cigarette smoke wafts through the air. I know that a lot of ex-drinkers identify that smell of just wafting cigarette smoke with beer or wine or alcohol. So you see, they're very subtle and they're very hidden. And so you're on the lookout for something that moves you into an involuntary action that you know doesn't serve your desired self. I thought this was interesting in Dr. Wainsick's work. He said if you were to go to a restaurant and have chicken wings, and when you're at a restaurant with all you can eat chicken wings, they clear away the old bones, bring you new plates continually. It's a continual cycle of clearing away the old, bringing the new, clearing away the old, bringing the new. You will eat, I believe it was as much as a fifth less if you keep your bones on your plate. That visual recognition of what you've done versus not having that accountability and them taking that plate away. So see, it's these little subtleties that we're looking for throughout our day that will redirect our behavior with very little effort from us outside of awareness. Okay? So I hope that served y'all tonight. I hope that you had a wonderfully successful second day in your 80/20 journey. And you guys share with me what day you've selected for your 20%. Is it going to be 2 days? Is it going to be 1 day? Is it going to be the small cheat every day? Let's start getting that dialogue going so that we can support each other, best support each other, because once we do that, I want us to share our 20% experiences. What did you bypass during the week because it didn't make the cut into your 20% versus what did you actually choose for your 1 or 2 cheat meals or your daily cheat? So let's start talking about that, and let's start celebrating that side of life. Food is to be celebrated. The 80/20 lifestyle is rooted in foods that nourish your physical body and foods that nourish your spiritual body. So there's nothing wrong with either world. So I want us to embrace a more all-encompassing celebration, moderation mentality, so that you can see that this is a lifestyle that will serve you for the rest of your life. Okay, you guys have a beautiful night. I'll be back with you in the morning. And remember, we're coming up on those critical hours in the evening that sabotage can happen. So just keep yourself aware, get a little extra sleep. Don't forget your water, and journal, journal, journal. And I'm here if you need me for anything. I love you all, and I will talk to you in the morning.